Hello, welcome back. So about a year ago, there was this really big trend that really caught my interest, but also I had no time to do anything with it. So now the trend isn't quite as trendy. It's still obviously happening, but it's not as big of a thing, but I still want to do it. And that trend was book nooks. So basically what it is a tiny, basically book-sized thing that you put in your bookshelf, and it kind of gives the illusion of another space. So you see a lot that are forest themed or city themed. So what I was thinking is to make one out of books in a bookstore theme. My goal with this is to make as much of the interior as I can. I'd rather not go out and buy model pieces just because those get real pricey real fast. So the first thing I need to do is get some books that I feel comfortable carving out to create the space for my book nook. I truly thought about making those elements myself, but for the amount of materials it would take to make it look the way that I wanted it to, I'm just gonna go get some books. That's really gonna be the first step, because there's not really anything I can do before I have that, because those books are going to determine what scale I'm working at, how much I can fit in, all of that. So we're gonna start there and then start sketching everything else out after that. So let's go get some books. Okay, we made it to town, and now the first stop is the antique mall. Are you ready?
Shovel City.
Shovels. There's a lot of shovels.
As well as all the hoes a player could dream of.
We're editing that out.
All of the hoes.
Inside we go. Oh, hello.
Sure was right.
So I have about 5 books total that I got the other day. I don't think I'm going to use all 5 because this is a lot to go through. I think I'm going to go with these 3 because they are the most consistent in height. And basically what I'm going to do is cut a little window out. So the 2 side covers will still be intact, but they'll just be kind of a nice little nook in the middle of the book. I'm going to take some measurements here, and basically I'm going to measure from the top to where I want the nook to start, and then I'm going to measure up to where I want the nook to end. And basically there's just going to be a frame left around it, and that's really just to make sure that there is still structural integrity behind the book. And I think I want to use the 2 thinner ones as the outside books so that I can just carve straight through the big boy. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm just gonna measure and start cutting, and that's gonna take a while. So yeah, let's go. So this took a lot longer than I thought it would. Because I still need to work in this area, I'm not going to glue both of the books in, because I feel like by doing so, I'm going to limit my ability to do what I want to in here. So I'm only going to glue one in. This also gives me room to change my mind again later if I so choose and not put another book on the side. Because me changing my mind in the middle of a project is pretty on brand. I'm going to basically glue along the edge of my pages here, just to try to keep the book from trying to like fly open on me. So I'll do that to both of these, and then I'm gonna glue these 2 together, and then just let that sit and dry for a while. So this is what we're working with. Got 1 book glued to the area of my book nook. So what I need to do now, because these edges did not come out as smoothly as I had hoped, and they don't look very good. I am going to make a box out of chipboard that's just these 3 sides. So I'm going to take some measurements, cut some chipboard, and then I will meet you at the table for some box making. Okay, so I've measured everything out as far as the depth, the height, and then the floor length and ceiling length. So I have my measurements here, and I have also gone ahead and measured out my first piece. So I'm going to cut this. This will be the back wall, just to make sure that my measurements work. All I'm using is just some leftover chipboard from a book project that I had that I really wasn't using for anything else. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that piece, make sure it fits, and I'll kind of use this piece to adjust some of my other measurements just because it's taken a little bit of finagling to get this to fit nicely in here. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is not perfectly flush and level, so getting a good clean measurement has been, I'll say, challenging. I'm not too concerned about how it looks, you know, from the side because I do intend on having another book here, and I'm not going to do anything on this side or the open side because I just want the book there. So I guess right now it's just going to be cutting and shaping, and it's kind of box making but not properly. I'm not going to talk through this, we're just going to montage, okay? Montage time. Right now we are so blue, it's like we're in the first Twilight movie. How old are you? 17. How long have you been 17? A while. That's not the point. The point is I've been putting this off for a while. I started this project back in June, and you know when this video is posted. It's down below in the description. It's not even like I've been working on it all of this time, because I have not. I think for me it was just a little bit disheartening with the whole carving the book out. The process didn't quite go as planned, so I think I was just a little upset and didn't really want to mess with it because I would just notice all of the things that I wish were different. And so while to the naked eye it doesn't look terrible as far as the construction is concerned, there's nothing square in here. Nothing is level. Nothing is a straight line. And then there's the paint job that I don't love the colors that I chose. Like, I thought a gold back wall would be really cool, but I kind of hate it. And especially with the lights that I have, it's just not the vibe. I think I'm also dealing with less floor space than I originally thought that I was gonna have, because I wanted to like have a chair and basically create this whole like bookshop vibe. Right now it's looking more like a book hallway. So what I'm gonna do is I think I'm going to lean into all of the issues that I've had with this and just try to make this as whimsical as I can. So a lot of book nooks tend to be very nature themed, which I get because there's a lot that you can do to a nature scene and it still looks good, but I still also want this to have bookstore vibes. So I'm going to mix the two together. I'm going to repaint the interior here. I originally wanted to keep this book cover intact, but the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, it needs to go. When I bring in the book that will go on this side, I will paint that one as well. Once that's done, I'm thinking I might throw in some like branches and some vines, maybe a like tree here in this corner. And then I haven't decided yet if I want the bookshelves to be the branches of the tree or if I want to make a separate little bookshelf. There's gonna be some moss in here. I'm probably gonna make like a little path. It's not what I originally wanted, but so far none of this has gone how I originally wanted it. And I think we can make this look good. So I'll check in with you if anything exciting comes up. Otherwise, let's just cut to the montage. Okay. Okay, so today I am working on making teeny tiny books. I have a whole bunch of teeny tiny books printed out and I just need to trim them up, and why am I not in focus? Now at this point you might be asking yourself, Kendra, why are you making individual books for your bookshelf? First of all, I'm not gonna need that many books, I don't think, because I do want some books that are just sort of off kilter and at odd angles and stuff. I think if I do find myself needing just a row of books that are just normally stacked, I'll probably just print off a row of spines, basically like these mini book covers, but just the spines all printed in a row. And those can be like my row of books, and then I can have the individual ones that can, you know, be movable. And yes, I am making sense. So this is a slow, tedious process of taking these individual teeny tiny covers and a pair of scissors and just boop, trimming them up. Once they're trimmed, I fold them along the spine, and by along the spine I mean along the sides of the spine so that I have a nice little spine. It's slow, it's tedious, but it's hopefully gonna be worth it. We'll see. Yeah, so I am not going to bore you with a montage of me cutting paper because you already know what I'm doing. So I will meet back up with you with the montage when we get back into the book nook and start placing them and doing the details. Because we're at the point of doing details now, which is exciting. I'll meet you then, which will be now for you, but it'll be a while for me. Okay. So I was recording, and then I look over at my camera and see that my screen is black. I guess the battery died, which was weird because I had half a battery. So I grabbed my SD card and plugged in my computer, and the whole file just like corrupted, which is phenomenal. So what I have done to this point, I have added some greenery to the trees. It's kind of hard to see it because, you know, shadows and stuff. But basically, I went to a hobby store, I got some of this stuff for models, and I've just been kind of sprinkling it in. So there's quite a bit along the top there, and then I put some along the bottom. I mixed in some paint to make kind of a pathway. So that's what you missed. I'm gonna let the glue and the paint dry and then do some final touches on the grassy, mossy stuff. And then we'll come back for the montage that will actually happen this time. And it will be basically just putting the books on the branches and maybe some on the ground. I don't know yet. So we're gonna try this montage thing again, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna cry. She is done. So let's go to the final reveal, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Whoosh! Okay, let's talk about her. This whole project, I feel like, has been somewhat of a mess from beginning to end. Like, it started off mostly okay. I found the books. It took longer than I had hoped to find the books, but I found them. I had hoped to find more that were similar, like, height, and that just didn't happen. It is what it is. That's honestly to be expected when you're just sort of going to thrift stores and antique shops to get books. Things started going awry during the cutting process. I don't think I was using the right equipment for the process, but also I was losing patience so quickly with how long it was taking just to get through a few pages at a time. I didn't record it, but we did end up getting power tools involved. Because my original plan was to leave these two covers on the sides completely the way that they were, and then to have the pages in the background as the back wall and the ceiling and the floor, because I wanted it to feel like it was inside of the book, you know? But it just didn't look good. There was no way that I was gonna sit there and try to make it level. So before I was even able to start on building the Nook, my whole vision was at the door. And I think it took me a little while to come to terms with that, but I eventually did. I'll say sculpting is not my strongest skill. It's not something that I've done a whole lot of, but even still, I am happy with how the trees came out. So things I would do differently if I were to ever do this project again. First of all, I am not cutting through an entire book. That was too much. Never doing that again. My wrist still hurts. Bearing in mind that I went with the nature route rather than a traditional bookstore route like I had originally planned on doing it, I like the trees. I do think I would do the books themselves a little bit differently. Particularly, you can't really see in here, but like the Twilight books that I have just sort of sitting here, they're very flippity floppity, and it's obvious that's just paper folded over. So I think if I were to do this again, I might take a little bit more time, be a little bit strategic about what books are going to sit where, and figure out if I need to put something inside of the booklet just to give it that thickness instead of letting the paper sort of support itself. Like, I think it looks fine on the books that are all the way in the back, but the books that I have kind of on the side and the books on the ground, they look a little janky. What I really like, first of all, I love how the lights came out, and I did put the light contraption all the way here on the back, so if the battery ever runs out, it's accessible. I do like the vibe of it sitting in between books, because like this alone could just be sitting on a shelf by itself, and it would look like I have books. That was a very interesting description considering they're literally books, but you know what I mean. As many criticisms as I have for this project, and as many things as I would do differently if I were to do this again, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Like, this is the first book Nook I have ever made, and I feel like I kind of started it off on hard mode. So if I were to do this project again, ultimately what it would come down to is I would make my own box. I would figure out a little bit more about proportions and scale, because I did not pay attention to hardly any of that. I can't tell you what any of these measurements are anymore. I think that would also, just in general, give me a lot more space to work with, because I would be working with pretty much the full height of a book, because it would be a box. I would have probably a little bit more depth because I wouldn't be trying to maintain the structural integrity of a book. And I could go wider, so I could effectively take up this entire space with a box and fill that. So yeah, all things considered, I'm happy with this project. I'm glad that I did it, as frustrating and as much of a headache as it was, and for how long it took me. It's fine. I'm happy with it. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this project, what you would have done differently. While you're down there, like this video. Subscribe, because I post every Wednesday for whatever Wednesdays. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Okay, I will see you next week. Bye!